everybody, welcome to my channel. This is video about what if Naruto was God of Speed. Let's start.
Namikaze Minato was considered a genius. His exploits as a ninja garnered him the awe and hatred of ninja everywhere. It wasn't a surprise, as Hokage of Konohakagure. The strongest ninja of his time, his skill second to none. But all that meant little to Minato. Sure he was strong, but strength alone had never been his main focus. Instead, Minato wanted family. Descendants who would follow in his footsteps. The fourth Fire Shah knew he wanted a large family, and in his career as a ninja, Minato had seen the strength of large clans. He wanted that for his future family. Oh sure, some clans had some twisted logic, like the Hyuga and their caged bird seal, but Minato didn't plan on enslaving his own family. And even though some clans like the Uchiha screwed themselves over, Minato had seen examples of clans who behaved responsibly. Besides, didn't his children deserve a close family? Minato knew the feeling of growing up alone as an He didn't want that for any of his children. At any rate, Minato knew that in order for any clan to survive, it'd have to have its own special set of jutsu that no one could replicate. In other words, if Minato wanted to clan, he would have to make his own Kekkei Genkai. He knew exactly what the limit would entail: mastery of electricity and instant teleportation. The Yondaime grew giddy. Thought of the idea. What ninja didn't wish they could instantly appear anywhere? Assassins could appear out of nowhere, kill their targets and be gone before the victim was dead. Reconnaissance missions would be a cinch. Oh sure, he had his Horaishin, but that technique would pale in comparison to the bloodline limit. The limit wouldn't. The use of specially marked kunai that were a pain to make. And in any event, the Horaishin wouldn't be born within the clan. No, instant teleportation would be way better. Any imitation jutsu. But there was one big fundamental problem. A bloodline limit was created by a pact between the user and a demon of the spirit realm. The Yondaime was a good ninja, an amazing ninja in some circles, but he had no idea how to get a spirit demon to come to an agreement with a mere human. It seemed nearly impossible, and it frustrated H. No end. Most of the demons he knew of were too powerful for his human limits. Minato had been thinking about this since his relationship with Kushina. And after it had become serious with talks of marriage, he knew he would have to tell her about high idea. Following the marriage ceremony, he had brought his idea up for discussion. She hadn't been opposed, but the idea of making pacts with demons hadn't been a very comforting thought. Besides, what if something went wrong? He'd comforted her with his promise that he wouldn't do anything without telling her first. And with that, the M had been left aside and forgotten. A year later, Kyubi appeared. Obviously, it was a surprise to everyone in the village. Who could foresee an incarnation of death and destruction in the form of a giant fox? Luckily, the fox had appeared enough from Konoha that Minato had enough time to think of how to deal with the problem. He remembered the aftermath vividly. He had been standing on top of his stone head on the cage monument, his blonde spiky hair swaying with the wind. Grim-faced, he stared at his assembled ninja of about 1,000 who were fighting the kitsune. But in all fairness, it wasn't really fight, it was more along the lines of his ninja throwing themselves at Kyubi and being swatted like flies. The cage frowned at the gruesome massacre. But he had a plan. As the student of Jiraiya, an expert seal specialist, Minato was also very proficient in the sealing arts. After he had learned of the kitsune's path of destiny towards Konoha, he had immediately gone to work making a seal. Immediately the Yondaime had sent his best ninja, the Jonin and Anbu, to hold off the threat. Ohini was no way any ninja could defeat Kyubi, but he needed more time before he could face the fox. Besides, he needed to mentally prepare himself for what he was about to do. Sacrificing your only son for the good of a village was not an easy thing to do. The Yondaime summoned the boss toad Gamabunta and made his way over to Kyubi, clutching a small crying form at his side. His son Naruto grew more and more agitated. He got closer to the demon fox. The malicious killer intent was a blanket that covered all of Konoha. Several times, Minato's resolve had faltered. He didn't want to do this son, but as the giant toad leapt past destroyed homes and shattered lives, his resolve grew. Filled with the confidence that he was doing the right thing, he held back tears. Drew nearer to the demon fox and prepared the sealing jutsu that would allow him to seal the kitsune into his son. He drew a weary sigh as he and Gamabunta landed with a crash in front of Kyubi. At first, he was just thinking about protecting Konoha. But as he shaped and designed Fujin, an idea came to him. He realized this was the perfect opportunity to make his bloodline limit and save Konoha at the same time. Besides, if he was about to die in Abandoned to a life of being a Jinchuriki, he ought to get something in return right. He knew just what to do. Staring calmly into the fox's menacing eyes, he started the sealing process. With a flash of light, Shinigami, the towering god of death, appeared behind the Yondaime. Immediately the semi-corporeal form plunged its hands through Minato's torso and stretched its hands toward the demon fox. Minato involuntarily hurled some blood. The was no stranger to pain, but he'd never had an arm shoved through his intestines. QB struggled against the spiritual tug, but it was pointless. No one escaped death's clutches. Through his pain, Minato watched as massive amounts of demonic chakra energy was slowly being absorbed into the seal placed on his infant son. The fox roared in pain and anger as it was assimilated into the seal. After living alone for most of his life, Naruto Uzumaki liked to believe that he was no one's fool. He thought his years as Konoha's outcast had toughened him up, made him different from the spoiled brats around him. He now knew that he had overestimated his abilities. Or, as he stood frozen in fear, he had underestimated his naivety. Either way, I'm gonna die, he thought. Recalling how he had failed the Genin test horribly, Naruto remembered how Mizuki-sensei had easily manipulated him into stealing the Forbidden Scroll, telling him that if learned a technique from the scroll he would automatically pass. What a load of horseshit, he thought. He must have been seriously addled from the blow of rejection and pretty desperate to swallow the bull Mizuki had fed him. But Sirio, how was he to know that Mizuki was really a backstabbing traitor? The guy had been one of the few academy teachers who had given him a chance along with Iruka. He punished him for any reason and he hadn't given him F's when he certainly passed, like the other teachers did. What was funny was that it wasn't the fact that he was QB that pissed Naruto off, it was how easily he'd been led by a string that stirred his anger. Now he was paying for his idiocy, in the form of giant four-bladed kunai head. His tender 12-year-old body. His only regret was that he would not being able to use the shadow clone explosion technique for vengeance. He wouldn't have killed Per. But he had a few choice people that desperately needed to be served the cold dish of revenge, exploding clone style. Here it comes. Everything seemed to be in slow motion. Naruto found it annoying that although he could still see the kunai coming at him, his body wasn't fast enough to. But then something really weird happened. At least that's the only way Iruka could describe it. Sitting down with another one of the giant kunai stuck in his lower back, Iruka had been forced to watch as Mizuki attack Naruto. It had seemed Naruto was done for, but the instant the kunai reached him, a sonic boom resounded throughout the forest. One moment Naruto was in danger of Dia. Giant kunai, the next moment he was standing next to Iruka, completely unfazed. Naruto felt strange, kind of like when he got a static shock, but all over his body. It was sort of uncomfortable, painful even. His eyes widened when he realized he was in the same place he was a second ago. He stared back at his surrogate father with wide eyes. Iruka was staring at him with a gobsmacked expression, as if he had just second head. Did you do that, Iruka-sensei? Mouth open, Iruka just shook his head. I wish. How'd you do that, Naruto? Dunno. A grin appeared on Naruto's face. But I know I'm about to kick some ass. Mizuki didn't know what was going on. His plans to manipulate Naruto had been rolling along smoothly until Iruka had shown up. It all went downhill from there. First, stalled him by distracting him with a clone, then the stupid teacher had managed to block one of his giant kunai from hitting Naruto, and now the brats managed to summon ability to teleport. It had already dawned on Mizuki that he was in deep shit if he didn't get away with the Forbidden Scroll soon. Even though he knew it would be next to impossible to hit a teleporting target, he really needed to get away with the Forbidden Scroll before Anbu arrived. Orochimaru-sama was a heartless bastard when his sub didn't deliver. Mizuki shuddered in fear. Bad things would happen if he failed now. With the fear of God, or snakes in his case, Mizuki prepared to go all out. The brat's goin' down. That was Mizuki's last thought before he lost consciousness. With what sounded like a thunderclap, a clone appeared behind Mizuki and wordlessly exploded, instantly knock the traitor out. Naruto smirked. While the fake teacher had been preparing to attack, he had quickly made a special shadow clone and had it teleport up behind Mizuki. It. Over before it had even started. Naruto. 1 point. Backstabbing some. Bitch Mizuki. 0 points. Naruto's thoughts were broken by a loud cry by Iruka. Naruto, you didn't kill him, did you? Naruto whipped around in surprised. What? No. I just knocked him out. See, Sensei. Naruto ran up to the fallen traitor and took his pulse, and as he thought, the ninja was still alive. Naruto hadn't put a lot of chakra into the special clone. Althaug. Whole body will feel like one giant bruise. Naruto grinned. Vengeance was oh so sweet. Iruka sighed in relief. He didn't like Mizuki any more than Naruto did, but he also didn't like the thought of Naruto becoming a killer. Besides, Ibiki from the interrogation department of the Anbu could still get some useful info from the traitor. All of that aside, Iruka realized that the skill Naruto had shown tonight definitely merited the Rua Genin rank. He learned 2 rank skills in one day, and that teleportation ability is definitely S rank. Naruto, get over here will you? And close your eyes too, I got something for ya. The Jinchuriki tilted his head in curiosity and he closed his eyes. When he felt Iruka's hand on his shoulder tugging him down, he complied. A moment later, he felt cloth go his forehead and opened his eyes in surprise. Iruka smiled warmly at Naruto's expression. Congratulations Naruto, you've earned it. Later that night, Naruto struggled to go to sleep. It wasn't exactly surprising, considering the events that had taken place only half an hour before. After all, it wasn't every that you learned that you had a giant demon fox taking up residence in your gut. But really Naruto wasn't sad or surprised. If anything, it made him relieved, it explained. Miserable existence. Miserable was the best way to describe his circumstances, what Naruto had couldn't be considered living. Even a lonely kid like Naruto knew he didn't life. But it also wasn't an everyday occurrence when you discovered a hidden ability to teleport anywhere you wished. Naruto giggled like a little kid on Christmas Day. Hell, today was the closest he'd ever experienced anything like Christmas. Today, he discovered the most kick-ass ability. Planet. In his mind, it blew away all competition. Sharingan, Byakugan, they could go to hell. I have to give this ability a name. Naruto thought. But what? The sound makes is pretty loud, sorta like a sonic boom or a thunderclap. I know. Thunder no jutsu. No, that's stupid. I'll have to think on it later. Naruto continued to giggle in bed as he reviewed the day's events in his mind. Christmas had come early for Uzumaki Naruto. The third fire shadow of Konohagakure was called the Professor, because he knew all the jutsu his village had ever produced. Or, at least he thought he had. Apparently. Bloodline limit had shown up. From Uzumaki Naruto no less. Let get this straight Iruka, Naruto has a bloodline limit. And this ability allows him to instantly teleport anywhere. Yes, Hokage-sama. After the incident in the forest and the Anbu had gathered up the forbidden scroll, Iruka had instantly gone to Sarutobi. In his office, Iruka related the events. Naruto-sama learning to a rank jutsu in one day, his apparent skill with them, and more importantly Naruto's seemingly new Kekkei Genkai. Hokage-sama, I really think it's a new bloodline limit. When I questioned Naruto further, he said that he'd never known he could teleport before. In fact, when I saw him, the forest, he only did it instinctually when he was in danger. Iruka grinned. I don't think Naruto had any idea what he was doing. Sarutobi chuckled, receiving the humor. Then he became serious. The only way we'll know for sure is if we get Ibiki to test Naruto. The third fire shadow stared out into the distance of his window and sighed. If this really was a new bloodline limit, the council would do anything to get their hands on it. Wouldn't be surprising if they made Naruto a stud for breeding purposes. Sarutobi's face hardened. I will make sure that never happens. When Sarutobi tore his gaze away his window and stared back at Iruka, he blinked. Something wrong. Iruka chuckled nervously and rubbed the back of his head. Is it really necessary to get Morino involved? He is rather intense. Sarutobi smiled. Ibiki's reputation as a sad bastard was only second to Orochimaru. Ah, Don't worry Iruka, you see under Ibiki's tough exterior, is a soft and gentle man. Sarutobi and Iruka stared at each other for a full minute, and then broke out laughing. Their guffaws ringing out into the night. In his mind Iruka berated himself. Sarutobi loves Naruto almost as much as I do. I'm sure he wouldn't purposely put Naruto in harm's way. When said Genin woke up, he wasn't in the same position he was when he went to sleep. Yes, a lot of people toss and turn in bed. What most people didn't do is end up magnetized to their ceiling. Naruto supposed when he looked back on this down the road it would be funny, but right now he was scared shitless. If it weren't for the fact that his bed was directly Ben him Naruto would have been screaming for help by now. He might not have received any, but scream he would do. Right now, he was stuck to the ceiling facing the ground. His cool view though, sorta gives you a new perspective, yeah this isn't so bad. Then his whole body started tingling, and all of his hairs that were standing on end drooped. Oh. Naruto did a belly flop on his bed. What was that all about? Yesterday I can teleport and now I'm a human magnet. I really need to talk to Iruka-sensei. Grumbling, Naruto crawled off his bed and moseyed on down to his bathroom. After completing his early morning routine, he plopped down on his small kitchen table for a breakfast of miso ramen and milk. As he went to grab his fork, it wobbled closer to his hand. Wait. His fork had moved, without him touching it. Naruto tilted his head in wonder. Right now his hand was inches away from the fork. He moved his hand to the right, and as if tied to his hand, the fork moved to the right, moved his hand to the left, it moved there too. The amazed blonde stared at his hand in awe. Life just kept getting better. Life sucked. Naruto thought his new magnetic ability had been awesome. But now, it just sucked. Who the hell carries scissors around with them? Grumbling, the 12-year-old struggled to pull the pair of blades off his arm. He would have been skewered if it weren't for his sharp reflexes. Finally tearing the sharp orb away from his limb, he threw it as far as he could, resuming his desperate run for the Ninja Academy. The only way to avoid the flying metal objects that were attracted to magnet body was by making an all-out sprint for safety. Who knew civilians had so many pointy, and in Naruto's case, potentially lethal stuff? Before the scissors, a dozen pens had come flying for his face. His flexibility and reflexes had been put to the test. He'd barely escaped with his life. Naruto saw the academy in the distance and cheered mentally. Yes, he thought in delight. Iruka-sensei will know what to do. Besides, a classroom couldn't have too many pointy objects, could it? Shouts from people who had lost their things to Naruto's attractiveness followed him as he sprinted for the safe haven. The blonde soon figured out there was no safe haven. Just as he had opened Iruka's classroom door, all hell had broken loose. Iruka-sensei, you gotta help me, was all got to say before several metal classroom objects did the magnet tango. A set of a dozen kunai, a nunchuck, two small wakizashis, and a nodashi went flying towards Na. With a yelp, he quickly closed the door in front of him. The weapons stabbed the door, a symphony of thuds and thumps. Naruto had forgotten that although it was just a classroom, it was a ninja classroom. He sighed in relief. That was close. Uchiha Sasuke had a favorite spot in Iruka's classroom. It was at the top left corner. Most kids in school hated being in the front, it meant you were directly in the teacher. The closer you were to the front of the class, the more you were called on. As a result, kids would sit near the end of the room. It was for this reason that Sasuke sat in the first of all, he wasn't like most kids. Any similarity he had with his peers died 5 years ago. Second, Sasuke sat in the front because he wanted to be apart from the wanna-be ninjas in his class. He didn't have the time or the patience to form friendships with them. They would only drag him down. The front had other merits too, but before he could start thinking about that, the classroom door opened with a bang. His position gave him the perfect view. Naruto stood panting in the doorway yelling when suddenly the various weapons placed around the classroom started to wobble, as force was pulling on them. In no time at all, the weapons had sprung up and went soaring for Naruto. Funnily enough, the points of all the weapons were facing in Naruto's Direction. He saw the blonde yelp and closed the door before he could get hit. Everyone in the classroom was silent, staring at each other in confusion. What the hell was that? Ino yelled. Their thoughts exactly. Naruto stood at the door sighing. He heard Ino yell and chuckled. Why does weird stuff always happen around me? First it was Mizuki, now this. He sat up when he heard. Open the door. The teacher looked incredulous. Naruto, what did you do now? Naruto just grinned, rubbing the back of his head in apology. I really need your help, sensei. Metal things, they're all after me. Iruka just sighed. Only Naruto. Many ninja thought the commanding officer of the torture and interrogations department of the Anbu was Satan in disguise. Most people wouldn't like that, but Morino Ibiki. Flattered by the sentiment, it just meant he was doing his job right. He was a man hardened by the cruel forge of war. The scars on his body proved it, his bald head was in burn marks, punctures from where screws were used, and long slash marks from physical torture. Survivor of the Second Ninja War, he had seen things that would have lesser men commit suicide. Countless women raped, scores of children murdered, and enough blood to soak a field the size of Konoha in red. But that's why he took pride. Job. As a torturer, he stopped those wars from ever touching Konoha's border. He was the guy who pried priceless info from enemies, through any means necessary. Descri. A sadist by some, he had the ability to subject people to great suffering without ever using physical torture. He took pride in the fact that his skill as a psychological torture prevented war. So he was confused when the Hokage told him to actually interrogate somebody, not torture. He wasn't allowed to physically or emotionally harm the target, just examine. That was strange. Usually regular interrogation would be left to his subordinates. All the important targets were left to him. When he found out he would be interrogating he was surprised. May I ask who and why? Marina questioned as he stood in the Hokage's office. The Sandaime looked at Ibiki levelly. What if I told you Konoha had a new bloodline limit join its ranks? Ibiki raised his right eyebrow. A new bloodline limit. It was widely accepted that there would never be new limits to be found. Teehee, last time Konoha had gained a new limit was since the founding. I'll see about that, he answered. Sarutobi nodded sagely. That's what I thought. Naruto looked at his surroundings. He was in a giant room filled with rubber padding. There were several weapons lying randomly on the floor around him. Once he had explained the fact that he was now a human magnet, Iruka-sensei had brought him to Anbu headquarters. There he had met this intimidating guy that looked an ex-convict. The guy had said something to Iruka and then his teacher had left him telling him not to worry, he was in good hands. That was when he started to grow nay. After his sensei had left, Convict-san, which was the only thing Naruto could call the guy, had told him to follow. He found himself walking further inside the headquarters. Passing bleak gray doors and white halls. At the end of the hall he was escorted into a room filled with rubber padding. Convict-san told him that the reason he was here because of his new abilities. They were going to test them out. Against Iruka's advice, the blonde grew increasingly worried. The stark whiteness was starting to creep him out. Why was he in a padded room? They couldn't test him somewhere else. Besides, the only people who were in padded rooms were crazy people. He wasn't crazy, was he? He occasionally talked to himself, but everyone does that sometimes. Right. Ibiki stared at Naruto through a one-way window. His interrogation skills relied solely on his ability to torture the mind. As a torturer, he knew a little about human cycle and spirit. If one could control the mind, one could gain control over the spirit. But Morino wasn't trying to control Naruto's spirit, he just wanted to see how Naruto's ability manifested. That's why he had Yuhi Kurenai in the room with Naruto. On his signal, the Ice Queen of Konoha was going to use Genjutsu on Naruto. At first, the illusion shed had misgivings on using Genjutsu on a little kid, but he had convinced her to do it, giving her total control of what she wanted to show Naruto. She could also stop at a time. Ibiki had other ninjas stationed around him to take observations. He gave the signal for Kurenai to start. Still invisible to the blonde in front of her, Kurenai made sure she had every set before she started the illusion. The weapons lying around on the floor. She would have to us. Once. If Naruto was struck by fake swords and didn't get hurt, the genjutsu would be broken. But before she did that, she would first knock him out. Naruto had been to the point of yelling to get some attention when this pretty red-headed lady had appeared from out of nowhere. Eyes wide, he started, "Who the?" He was out before he could finish the sentence. When Naruto woke up, he was in the woods. His eyes twitched and he felt the grass prickle his neck as he gained consciousness. Groaning, he sat up and stared at his surroundings. What the fuck is going on? His earlier anxiety was giving way to annoyance. Where the hell am I? He stared up at the treetops trying to gauge his location. The sun, but it soon became obvious to Naruto how useless that would be. The trees were huge, tall enough to block the sunlight. Damn trees. Grumbling, Naruto sat up and brushed loose grass and sticks from his pants. What do I do now? He thought. There was a sudden scream in the distance. Nar jerked his head in the direction of the sound. That answers my question. Following the ensuing calls for help, he came up on a clearing in the woods. There were bandits, 10 of them, surrounding a group of travelers. There was an old man, a woman of about 30, and a little girl of about 8 years old. It was she who been screaming for help. The old man was on the ground, lying wounded on his side. 5 of the bandits had started ransacking the family's wagon, the supplies tossed carelessly. The other 5 bandits were circling the woman. Naruto didn't like the look on their faces. He'd seen older guys harmlessly stare at women, but the outlaws' leer. Different, more predatory and menacing. If he didn't do something soon, things would get ugly for the lady. The girl screamed again. One of you shut that brat up. A bandit had gotten sick of the girl's squealing. One of them stalked menacingly at the girl. She cringed back in fear. That's my cue. With nothing but the clothes on his back, Naruto leapt into the clearing, the bandits jerking their heads in surprise. The hell'd you come from? Naruto said nothing. They looked at each other in confusion. What was this pipsqueak doing? One of them looked to his right and spoke up. What do we do, boss? The man he spoke to was a giant, covered in samurai armor. Naruto didn't know much about samurai, but he did know about the way of Bushido. He knew true samurai hated bandits. They went against everything Bushido stood for. Probably stole it somehow, he thought. With more examination of the boss bandit, Naruto saw a huge Zanbato strapped to his back. Note to self, avoid man cleaver. The boss was a brute, Naruto saw. Probably all muscle and no brains. The Jinchuriki looked at the 10 outlaws. He noticed all of them looked like mindless beasts. As long as don't get careless, I should be good. Assured of that reasoning, Naruto made the hand seal for Kage Bunshin, a cruciform made with 2 fingers of each hand. From her perch on the ceiling, Kurenai watched in surprise as Naruto made 20 clones. How does he know that jutsu? She thought. Ibiki had said he was at the bottom class. This would complicate things. She'd thought 10 bandits would be enough to overwhelm Naruto and force him to use his Kekkei Genkei. It seemed she would have too. Auntie. The bandits gawked with surprise when the little kid in orange suddenly did a hand seal and summoned more little kids in orange. Shit, they thought. Ninja. They knew EV. Prepubescent ninja, the genin, were deadly to normal humans. As the smoke from Naruto's Kage Bunshin cleared, the hunters suddenly became the hunted. 20 clones surrounded the bandits, each of them had a cocky smirk on their face. In unison, they cracked their knuckles in anticipation. Let's get started, shall we? At once, each of the Naruto clones chose a bandit and attacked. 2 clones per criminal allowed the clones to easily dispatch their foes. By double teaming the clones mad work of the bandits, and they were done in 5 minutes. Naruto smiled at how easy it had been. When the boss screamed that he had the girl hostage, Naruto was caught off guard. He saw the little girl grasped in the giant's grip, whimpering in fear. Naruto swallowed silently berated himself mentally, remembering Iruka's lesson on hostage situations. In such a situation, the hostages always came first. You only fought when you knew victims were safe. Now a little girl was about to die for his stupidity. Not if I have anything to say about. Naruto grit his teeth in determination. There was only one ability he had that could save that girl. It was only if he could find it within himself to pull it out and use it. Naruto struggled to center himself, trying the last time he had teleported. How had he done it? All he remembered was an all-encompassing fear, then poof he was safe. Damn it, why can't I do it? Naruto's chakra L began to rise, as he grew more distressed at his own powerlessness. A visible aura of crackling electricity surrounded the blonde as he used more and more of his reserves. Hair began to wave wildly as wind started to whirlpool around his body. Kurenai gazed in curiosity at the blonde under her. What was he doing? His chakra levels were climbing at an astronomical rate, but he wasn't doing anything. He was just standing there with a look of intense focus on his face, as if he was struggling to remember something. She snapped to attention when Naruto opened his eyes, a victoriou on his face. The determined blonde had remembered. With a confident smirk, he opened his eyes. They felt itchy, but he ignored that. He didn't know that his eyes had turned into glow orbs of electricity. The iris, pupils and cornea were completely engulfed in small yellow bolts of electrical energy. With eyes of lightning he stared the bandit boss. With a thunderclap he disappeared. Maybe life wasn't so bad. In the ninja world, jutsu are divided into three main categories: ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu. Ninjutsu are the most widely used techniques. It's a vague term, referring to almost any jutsu allows the user to do something that they otherwise would be incapable of with their hands alone. Ninjutsu relies on chakra and, most of the time, hand seals to work. Taijutsu refers to any techniques involving hand-to-hand combat in the mart. The user accesses his or her stamina directly, rather than converting the stamina to chakra in order to execute a ninjutsu or genjutsu technique. Genjutsu or techniques the chakra in the victim's nervous system to create illusions. It's an advanced intellectual ninjutsu and those with high intelligence have an easier time executing and count. Genjutsu, as attention to detail is key. The most commonly seen genjutsu are the simple creations of illusions, causing the targeted to hear, see, smell, taste and or feel sensations that are not actually there in order to manipulate them. Of the three techniques, many regard genjutsu as one of the most difficult arts to learn and master. Proficient genjutsu users are rare and mainly come from bloodline clan, whose limit greatly enhance the user's ability, notably the Sharingan. Otherwise, many genjutsu masters are young prodigies or aged ninja. The difficulty of genjutsu start. The ability to weave chakra into the synapses of the brain, which requires a very precise chakra control. A ninja has to extend their chakra flow through the cerebral nervous system of their opponent, controlling their target's senses. But that was the easier part. The hard part was making the illusion real enough to fool the target. If even a tiny the illusion was wrong in any way, shape or form, it could ruin the genjutsu user's hold over their enemy. Kurenai struggled to keep her illusion real, even as her target did the most unreal things she had ever seen. It was a testament to Kurenai's skill that she was able to hold illusion and keep up with the genins teleporting. Naruto had reappeared behind the bandit leader. Before the criminal could say a thing, the blonde grasped the leader's hand with his own and sent an electric pulse through limb. The boss cried out in pain as his hand was completely paralyzed. Naruto nabbed the girl as she fell from the bandit's numb grip. With another thunderclap he was his previous location. He had rescued the girl in 3 seconds. He set the girl aside, checking to see whether she was injured. Satisfied, he made clones to gather the other family members. When he was finished he returned his attent back to the bandit boss. The man was reaching for the Zanbato strapped to his back. Naruto just cocked his head to the side and stretched his right arm straight, palm X. The samurai bandit flinched, thinking the genin was about to do another jutsu. He grinned with relief when nothing happened. He had smiled too soon. A moment later, the Zanbato flew up into the air, pulling the bandit boss along with it by the straps. With seemingly playful innocence, the Jinchuriki proceeded to jerk the Z left and right, the weapon moving in sync with the motions of Naruto's right arm. The armor-clad bandit screamed with terror as he was flung to and fro. Naruto's good mood abruptly ended. With a scowl he twisted his torso and flung his arm, sending the Zanbato flying. Attached by secure straps, the bandit boss flew with it. Morino Ibiki raised both his eyebrows. Well, that isn't something you see every day. He turned to the aide at his left. You get all of that? The aide nodded with wide eyes. Furiously on his computer, he was looking at Naruto and the screen in an attempt to get all the info down. This kid's amazing, the aide said excitedly as he typed. He's electromagnetic waves to control the Zanbato. His new abilities allow him to manipulate electricity, bending to his will. The room was full of the chatter of excited scientists. Grew as Naruto suddenly started disappearing and reappearing inside the white rubber room. Their awe grew as they saw him manipulate the Zanbato using electroman waves. Ibiki signaled for Kurenai to stop her genjutsu. The kunoichi nodded and uttering the word Kai, she released the hold she had on Naruto's senses. To Naruto it seemed the around him was dissolving. Earth and sky started to warp and whirl, giving Naruto vertigo. The Jinchuriki fell as his world started to turn white and back into the experiment of Anbu headquarters. Dazed he stared at his surroundings, and promptly passed out. Konoha's government body was unique for a ninja village. Usually, ninja villages in the elemental lands practiced military dictatorship. The cage controlled all facets of government, with occasional advisors for diplomacy. But Konohagakure no Sato was relatively more peaceful than the other villages. As a result, the power was split between Hokage and the council. The Hokage had authority over ninja of Konoha. As commander-in-chief, he had total control over the military and any shinobi within it. The Kunk commanded the civilian populace, watching over Konoha's economic and social well-being. The council usually made the laws, and as a result, was slightly more powerful. The Hokage. But, in times of war, the Hokage could assume total control of the government, returning Konoha back to a temporary dictatorship. In a dim amphitheater, the Hokage and the council were in hot debate over a certain blonde. Like Sarutobi had predicted, the council wanted to use Naruto as a breeding street. The Kekkei Genkai could replace the gaping hole the Uchiha massacre had left in Konoha. The way the council heads saw it, the Kyuubi host's new powers were a perfect restore Konoha's position as the strongest of all ninja villages. I say we harness the Kekkei Genkai and use the demon's powers as a weapon. One of the 10 council members cried out from his bench. The clan heads and the Hokage were vehemently opposed, arguing that doing that to the genin was degrading and against his rights as a ninja and a human being. It was the civilian sector of Konoha's government that was lobbying for military gain, not the ninja. Sarutobi sighed and listened with growing anger at the hot air being blown back and forth between the heads of the ninja clans and the council. Enough! Sarutobi bellowed. The Hokage's killer intent was heavy, instantly quieting everyone in the room. He was about to continue when someone interrupted. I have an idea. Nara Shikaku idly raised his hand for attention. Lazily lying on his back, he was calm in the tense atmosphere. Everyone turned their heads, looking at him in curiosity. The clan head rarely spoke, but when he did you were well advised to listen. This is the way I see it. Shikaku started patiently. Naruto became a genin a little while ago, did he not? The council members grumbled their assent. Shikaku smirked. His goatee. That means that he is no longer in your jurisdiction. The members stared at the Nara in confusion, then in anger, realizing just what the shadow user meant. Ago, they could have done anything they wanted with Naruto. But the moment he became a genin, he became a subject under the Hokage's rule. He was no longer a civili. Sarutobi smiled at Shikaku's cleverness and sighed with relief. He had been about to kill the person who dared interrupt him, but Shikaku had wrapped up the situation nicely. God, the Nara had nothing against Naruto. The man had the sharpest mind in Konoha, and Sarutobi would be the first to admit that the shadow user could walk circles around. In any argument, the debate would have gone a completely different way if Shikaku had decided he hated Naruto. Time to end this debate before the council can pull out. Loophole. Sarutobi stood up abruptly, Uzumaki Naruto is a genin of Konohagakure no Sato. As such, he is under my protection. Anyone who harasses him in any way, will answer to me. This meeting is adjourned. He walked to his office before the council could speak. To the third fire shadow, the topic was closed. Naruto woke up amid water, the cool liquid swishing gently along his back. He shot up to standing position, yelling in annoyance. His back was completely soaked. Mumbling. Blonde genin stared at his surroundings. Am I in jail? There was a giant gate in front of him, a little piece of paper at the center with the kanji for seal written on it. Naruto started banging on the giant bars. Whatever it is, I didn't do it. He cried out into the pitch black space beyond the cage. His calls of innocence echoed out into the darn. Little did he know it wasn't him that was behind bars. A set of giant eyes abruptly opened from the blackness. Naruto jumped in surprise and tripped as he tried to step backwards. The eyes were menacing, the irises blood red, staring out with malicious intensity. He shuddered, dreading what they might be attached to. Naruto's terror grew as the vision in front of him drew nearer, revealing the rest of what lay behind closed bars. A snout, tipped by a large dark nose. Ears, longer than his. Apartment was wide. A jaw, full of vicious razor-sharp fangs. Naruto gazed upon the face of evil. He scrambled away in fear, desperately crab walking, anything to get away from the giant red fox behind him. Water sloshed around his arms and legs. When he got suffocating distance between him and the monster, he sighed with relief. Then stared in surprise when he realized that the fox was laughing at him. It was a deep-throated laugh, one that reverberated on the bars and on the floor. Tiny waves parted the water. Naruto's face bloomed red with embarrassment. I'm being at by a fox. The laughter stopped immediately. I'm no mere fox, human. I am Kyuubi, the demon lord of all Kitsune. You would do well to remember it. It wasn't a suggestion. With wide eyes, Naruto nodded quickly in agreement. The latent killer intent surrounding the fox had come out in waves, drowning Naruto in fear. He didn't question how K had known what he was thinking, he just agreed. Nodding his head in satisfaction, Kyuubi let his killer intent subside. Do you know where you are? Naruto shook his head. We are in your mind. The dump that it is. Naruto drew his eyebrows together in annoyance. But before he could retort, the fox continued. You passed out from depletion. Naruto looked up at Kyuubi in surprise. Chakra depletion. He never ran out of chakra. In fact, he was famous at the academy for the amount of energy stored body. Kyuubi just snorted. No one has unlimited chakra, human. Even I have a limit. Though I've yet to reach it. He thought inwardly. Wait, how did you know what I was thinking? Naruto asked in confusion. I live in your mind. I know your deepest, darkest secrets. A wide malicious smile graced Kyuubi's snout. I know you completely, my little host. Now, get out. Face, it annoys me. Of course Kyuubi wouldn't tell Naruto that his face reminded him of the man who had defeated him 12 years ago. Naruto clenched his hands in determination. He had questions, and if his intuition was right, the fox had answers. I'm not leaving yet. I don't care who you are, no one to get out of my own mind. Kyuubi had seen this coming, but he still rolled his eyes in annoyance. Whatever, brat. You get 3 questions. Then you are gone, yo. Mind or not? Naruto knew what he would ask first. The question had been swimming around in his head since Mizuki had told him he was a demon host. He wanted to know why Kyuubi appeared in Konoha 12 years ago. What had led a giant incarnation of destruction to the relatively harmless village? His life wouldn't have been so shitty if the fox had come. Why did you attack Konoha? Kyuubi smirked. Can't say. Next question. What? Naruto yelled in outrage. Kyuubi's grin broadened. I said I would give you 3 questions, not 3 answers. Grumbling, Naruto moved on to his next coup. It wasn't as if he could force the fox to answer. Hopefully he'd get a better answer to this query. Who are my parents? Naruto had always wanted to know his origins. Watching the other kids interact with their parents had left an aching pain in his chest. He needed to know parents were. He'd once asked the Sandaime, but the man would say that when Naruto was old enough he could tell him. Sensing the blonde's desperation, Kyubi gave a better answer than the last one. Look at the cage monument on the cliff surrounding Konoha, your answer lies th. Naruto sighed in defeat, knowing not that a direct answer wouldn't come. Okay, what about the whole teleporting and magnetism thing? What's up with that? What's up with it, as you say, is that it's a bloodline limit created by my great self. Naruto nodded, already guessing that it was a Kekkei Genkai. Continue. I call it total mastery of electricity. The three abilities you've unlocked, teleportation, electromagnetic manipulation and the paralyzing shock, are only tip of the iceberg. Your bloodline limit allows you to shape electricity any way you deem fit. The possibilities are extensive. Wait, you mean there are more powers I haven't found? Naruto asked in wonder. The giant kitsune sighed in exasperation. That's what I said, isn't it? Now get out. Before Naruto could reply, he felt a force lift him in the air and drag him backwards. Saw the large iron bars draw farther and farther away, Kyubi walking back further into his cage. Then there was a flash of light. He woke up with a groan, clutching his head in pain. He had a splitting headache. It felt as if someone had taken his brain and repeatedly bashed it with a maul. He turned head, vaguely aware of his surroundings. He was in another white room, although it was smaller and devoid of rubber padding. The decor was Spartan, a tiny wooden desk, small chair, and a nondescript mat on the floor were all that decorated the area. With effort he managed to sit up, moaning as his stiff body tried to refuse. Where was he? Was the third time he'd awoken to unknown surroundings and it was really getting old. Sighing, he proceeded to get up from his cot, but before he could a familiar face en the room. Ah, Naruto, you're awake. That's good. Naruto sat there surprised as Iruka entered the room. Iruka grinned. You probably have so many questions, right, Naruto? The blow nodded mutely. Tell you what, I'll explain over a nice hot dish of ramen. How does that sound? Naruto grinned back in reply. Do you even have to ask? Naruto slurped down a big helping of miso ramen as he conversed with his academy teacher. Iruka had explained the whole situation to him, telling him how he'd been put illusion to test his new powers. Naruto found out he didn't really mind. There was a sliver of annoyance, but his meal with Iruka-sensei making him happy. These excursion, his favorite person, were becoming rare as he grew older. You mean the people I was rescuing were all fake? Man, that's some good genjutsu by Kurenai-san. I didn't notice a thing. Iruka chuckled, rubbing Naruto on the head fondly. Iruka had no living relatives, and Naruto was a constant ray of light on what would have been a dark existence. The AC teacher loved Naruto like a son. The blonde continued to rant on, laughing the evening away with his surrogate father. The next morning found Naruto grumbling in frustration. He had been excited about finally starting his shinobi career when Iruka had started teaming them up into 3 meters cells, but his excitement had quickly vanished. Yes, he was teamed up with Sasuke and Sakura, but that wasn't the reason he was now aggravated. The reason was his sensei, Kakashi. He was supposed to have come 2 hours ago like the other Jonin senseis, but Iruka had jokingly warned them not to hold their breaths. 2 hours later, Naruto was not amused. Itachi Kakashi was a famous ninja. Owner of the title, Copy Ninja Kakashi, he knew over 1,000 jutsu. Born a genius, the prodigy had quickly sped through the ninja academy, and by age 6 he'd already become a genin. A feat yet to be defeated by anyone. He was listed as an S-class ninja in the bingo book. When it came to being an seemed there were few things he couldn't do. It was for these reasons that Kakashi frustrated his peers to no end. He, the copy ninja, was often 2-3 hours late for meetings. When he finally arrived in his typical back gate, the other Jonin would glare at him, but he'd shamelessly tell them to continue and say, what were they all looking at? How could such a capable ninja be so las? Peers asked Kakashi this question countless times, but the Jonin would just respond with a shrug and the remark, you say something. Then they would all sigh in defeat and continue on with their lives. Kakashi thought it was very entertaining. As the ninja lazily strolled down the street to the ninja academy, he stopped to stare at the sky. What a beautiful morning today, shame I have to spend it with a trio of BR. Shook his head and resumed his walk, taking his time of course. If he were late for the Hokage, it would ruin his reputation if he were on time for a bunch of genin. He chuckled. Can't have that, can we? When Kakashi finally arrived, he came upon 3 very irate genins. Mission success, he thought. He didn't even say anything to the angry glares, he just turned around and motioned them to follow. The Jonin led the trio to the roof of the academy. Leaning back on a ledge, he ordered Sakura, Naruto and Sasuke to sit down. He watched as the girl abruptly pushed Naruto, so she could sit next to her dark-haired teammate. Ah, here we go, he thought with a sigh, remembering his days with his own genin teammates. I'd like you to tell me about yourselves. Not much, just a small description to break the ice. Kakashi already knew a lot about the 3 in front of him. He'd looked at the records of their time in the academy. Uchiha Sasuke, top of his class, he had breezed through the academy, earning Rookie of the Year. Obviously the kid was on a mission. 3 guesses as to what? Kakashi M. With no family members to speak of, the kid was probably still traumatized by his past. Next up was Haruno Sakura. She had no living ninja relatives, and she'd been forced through the academy with no help either. Apparently she'd done well, receiving high marks in test scores. We'll see if she can actually use that knowledge, the Jonin though. But definitely not the least was Uzumaki Naruto, the QB host. His grades were abysmal. In fact, Kakashi wondered how the blonde had graduated. Interesting. As the Jonin compared his 3 charges, he noted with interest that all 3 of them had gone through the ninja academy without any familial support. Most came from clans, and usually knew the basics even before entering the school. It seemed Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura had managed to pass without the crutch of relatives. Well done, he thought. But I'll see what they're truly made of soon enough. You with the bubblegum hair, go first. The silver-haired ninja pointed at Sakura. What should we say? Kakashi turned his head upwards to glance at the clouds. The Jonin began softly. You know, your likes, your dislikes, your hobbies, your dream. Sort of thing. Wait. Why don't you go first, sensei? After all, we have no clue who you are. The girl seemed pleased with herself. Kakashi rubbed his head, as if he had to think just to remember his name. Okay. Let's see here, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. I am fond of a lot of things. I dislike some stuff. Kakashi paused again and sighed. I have many hobbies, he nodded. Head in emphasis. I do have a lot of hobbies. As for my dream, I don't feel like telling you yet. Kakashi's gaze stayed upward, he looked as if he was slightly assly. Sakura whispered to the group, so all we got to know was his name. Naruto and Sasuke nodded in confusion, staring at the lazy Jonin incredulously. The Jonin looked down from the clouds, noticing the expressions he was receiving. What? He asked. Sakura just shook her head and began her self-portrayal. My name is Haruno Sakura. She shot a sidelong glance to Sasuke. She continued. My dislikes, definite. Naruto. The QB host just sighed. My hobbies, she giggled and threw another longing glance at Sasuke. My dream, she completely flipped out at this point, squealing silently to herself and going into a giggle fit of legendary fangirl proportions, shooting another glance at Sasuke of course. Kakashi resisted the urge to slap his head in exasperation. This is what I have to work with. How did Minato-sama deal with it? Recalling how Rin was like that when she w. young, he shook his head at the deja vu. Moving on, he gestured to Sasuke. You, go. Sasuke paused to think for a moment, his head resting on his hands, before replying with a cold and detached voice. I am Uchiha Sasuke. I have only a few likes, an ID. Lot of things. For a split second, Sasuke quickly shifted his eyes at Sakura, only Naruto and Kakashi noticed. I have no hobbies, except for training. As for a dream, I have ambition. To revive my clan and to kill a certain man. Sasuke finished on a cold note, and at reviving a clan, Sakura's incessant giggling started up all over. Kakashi simply stared at the boy. Oh boy, an avenger. This is going to be pain in the ass, I just know it. He put his thoughts aside for the moment, and finally pointed to Th. Person he was truly curious about. The blonde was making waves in the ninja community. He was rumored to have learned Kage Bunshin and its exploding counterpart. The even gossip about a Keke Genkai. Kakashi was suspicious. Last time he'd checked, his sensei hadn't had any bloodline limits to speak of. Naruto, go. My likes, definitely ramen and Iruka sensei too. Naruto started. My dislikes, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, but I hate the odd stares I get from the adults. My hobby. Well, I like to eat ramen, so I guess that could be a hobby too. My dream, to be Hokage, believe it. Kakashi chuckled. From what he'd heard, Naruto was the most normal of the three kids in front of him. Though it was pretty interesting that the QB host wanted to be the leader of the Peo. That hated him. Kakashi didn't understand that logic, but who was he to deny Naruto that dream? So, I have a girl who shouldn't be here, a wannabe Hokage and a brooding kid who's thinking about killing his older brother. I wonder how they'll be able to work together. Should be fun. Okay, you three, we start our ninja duties tomorrow. The three ninja perked up their heads in curiosity. Up until now, being a genin had been boring, but now they were going to start some actual training. Duties. What kind? Sakura asked. Kakashi tilted his head skyward. Just a little test. He started chuckling. What's so funny, sensei? You may not have known this, but the true genin exam lies with the Jonin sensei, not with the academy. And of the 27 graduates, only 9 are allowed to go. Being a genin, the rest will be sent back. I will choose, tomorrow, whether you three pass or fail. Sakura frowned. Although she had gotten high marks in the academy, it was only because of the theory part of the test. She had barely passed the practical portion. Even new theory only got you so far. To her side, Sasuke sat up straighter, tense with the knowledge of the high failure rate. This wouldn't be easy, but was he not an Uchiha? He would pass that test, through means necessary. Naruto was thoroughly excited. This was his chance to show everyone his new abilities and prove he wasn't a failure. He was going to let everyone see how much he had changed. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, you'll just throw up. Kakashi gave an amused grin, and without a word the copy ninja leapt off the building, bounding away in the distance. The next morning, Naruto decided that Kakashi's instructions could go to hell. He dived into a cup of his favorite instant ramen, savoring the noodles as he devoured his breakfast. When he finished, he proceeded to get dressed. Opening his small bedroom closet, he peered inside at his selection. Not much, just 2 pairs of his orange jacket. Pants, he sighed, but then noticed a pile of clothes neatly folded at the back of the closet. He reached for the bundle and discovered in surprise a white long-sleeved shirt. Gray flak jacket with plenty of pockets, a pair of black fingerless metal-plated gloves and dark gray cargo shorts. When did I get new clothes? Naruto thought with wonder. I remember now. Iruka gave them to me. Naruto remembered how 2 years ago the teacher had pulled him aside to talk to him about his choice of clothing. Something about orange being an eyesore, Naruto rec. Iruka had pulled out a new bundle of clothes, telling Naruto that he expected him to wear them next class. Naruto had barely heard. Except for the old man, no one had him presents before. He had broken down in tears of gratitude. Iruka had started to laugh nervously, wondering why the little kid in front of him was crying. The start of a beautiful relationship. It had been really too bad that the clothes hadn't fit because of Naruto's stunted growth. A lifetime of instant ramen was not what a growing boy needed. He must have too. The clothes away in his closet and forgotten about them. Now the clothes fell comfortably around his shoulders, a loose but functional fit. The blonde stared at his mirror as his hitai ate around his forehead, not bad in his opinion. Check me out, I'm a ninja. Turning away from the mirror, he slipped on his ninja sandals and ran to training field 7. Sasuke and Sakura met at the training field at the same time. There was an awkward silence as the teammates stared at each other. Sakura tried to soften up the tense atmosphere. Good morning, Sasuke-kun, she said, smiling nervously. Sasuke grunted and walked away. He sat down under a tree and to wait for Kakashi. Sakura's smile dropped. Walked to another tree and plopped down on the roots, still glancing nervously at Sasuke. This whole being on a team with Sasuke wasn't going the way she had planned. She and Sasuke were supposed to hit it off immediately and live happily ever after. Or, somewhere along those lines. She realized that she had been holding on to a delusion. Sasuke had been cold on the academy and he would be cold as a teammate. YW. He changed now. She snapped out of her reverie when she steps approaching from the bridge. Was that Naruto? Since when did he have another change of clothes to wear? The orange jacket and pants had been a familiar constant, like sushi on Wednesdays at the academy cafeteria. Seeing him wear something other than neon bright orange was bizarre. The blonde genin had a broad grin on his face. Hey guys, like the new duds? And Sakura just grunted. But they had to admit, the new getup was easier on eyes than the blinding orange jacket. You're still an idiot, Sakura said evenly. Naruto glared at the both of them and plopped down with a huff, arms crossed. For the next 2 hours Team 7 remained in a of agitation before a poof sounded in front of them, and their late sensei appeared from under a veil of smoke and leaves. Yo! Kakashi saluted. You're late. Sasuke and Naruto both clapped their ears shut at the outburst from the pink-haired girl in front of them, wincing in pain. Sorry I'm late. A black cat walked in front of me and, well, I had to take the long way. What was funny was a black cat had crossed his path and he had taken a around the whole of Konoha. You know how unlucky black cats are. Besides, he wanted his genin aggravated before the test, they'd need the anger. Shrugging at their glare, Kakashi led the agitated Team 7 further into the woods. At a clearing, Kakashi cleared his throat and pulled out an alarm clock from his backpack. He set the clock down on a tree stump in front of him and filched 2 bells from pocket. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura stared at their sensei in curiosity. The task is straightforward. You 3 are to come at me and try to get these from me before noon. Those who do not get a bell by noon, get to go back to the academy. Whichever of you don't, will not only have the punishment of being tied to one of the stumps behind you, but you also get to watch the others eating lunch. Sakura and Sasuke's stomachs grumbled, while Naruto's own was completely silent. At that very moment, he was glad he had listened to his gut instinct instead of Kakashi. He would all the energy he could get. There are only 2 who will succeed, so one of you will definitely be sent back to the academy. You can even use your weapons, shuriken, kunai, whatever you feel is neck. You will fail if you don't attack me with the intention to kill. Sakura was the one to break Team 7's silence. But that's not fair. She was basically whining. Kakashi simply shrugged and clipped the bells to his waist. That's your problem. Besides, with that large head of yours you should be able to outwit these 2 dunces. Naruto and Sasuke's eyes narrowed from Kakashi's barb. The Jonin smirked, putting his palm on the alarm clock and pushed the large button on top of it for the start of th. exam. Okay, let's get going. Ready, start. As soon as Kakashi had signaled the start of the test, Sasuke and Sakura had hidden themselves. They lay hidden in the bushes staring at their sensei in each of their HIDI spots. Kakashi nodded in approval. Good, they have hidden themselves well. The basics of a good shinobi are stealth and concealment. He tilted his head in curiosity at th. Blonde still in front of him. I guess Naruto didn't get the memo. Naruto stood tall, proud that he was the only one who hadn't run away. Cowards, he thought. He glared at Kakashi, pointing his finger at the silver-haired Jonin. Your go. Down, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi's sweat dropped in exasperation. Is he an idiot? Kakashi looked at Naruto, cocky grin. Why, I believe he is. Sasuke gazed at Naruto. The blonde had a confidant grin on his face. Sasuke knew he himself was arrogant, he was top of his class. But he wasn't so arrogant that he could take on a Jonin. Did Naruto have a trump card? A move that would allow him, a mere genin, to take on a Jonin? Sasuke chuckled at the thought. Naruto had been at the academy for 4 straight years. There was no way the blonde could have learned anything that would warrant this much confidence, could there? Hey, Kakashi-sensei, check this move out. I call it Reisoshi no Jutsu. Lightning step technique, with a clap of thunder, Naruto disappeared before Sasuke's wide eye. The fuck? Apparently there was. Kakashi calmly stared at the spot Naruto had just inhabited a second earlier. Lightning step technique, so the rumors were true. Naruto reappeared behind the Jonin, making a swipe for the two bells tied to Kakashi's waist. There was a soft jingle as his hands touched the bells. Kakashi deftly spun AR and batted Naruto's hand away in retaliation. The Jonin followed his maneuver with a double palm strike to Naruto's chest. Naruto felt the wind get knocked out of him as H. Backwards. The genin hit the ground several times before he rolled to a stop. How had Kakashi known where he was gonna appear? Ho, how did you? The blonde wheezed. Naruto felt like someone had squeezed all the air out of H's lungs. As he struggled to get up, Naruto gasped for fresh air. The silver-haired ninja grinned owishly as he pointed at his green Jonin flak jacket. He looked amused from Naruto's predicament, grinning as the blonde rubbed his chest in. The title of Jonin isn't just for show, Naruto. As you rise through the ranks and gain experience, you develop a sense of anticipation, a sixth sense if you will. All experience. Learn to read their opponents, Naruto. And, well, Kakashi chuckled. Genin are the easiest to read. His original strategy had seemed sound. Just teleport next to Kakashi, nab the bells and teleport away. Easy, right? He had forgotten one little tidbit of information. Kakashi. Jonin, and a good one at that. Even if he couldn't see Naruto, he still had the intelligence and reaction time to counter Naruto's maneuver. Now he'd have to think of Someth. And fast. He smirked at Kakashi. He liked a challenge anyway. Making a cross with his fingers, he cried out, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. His plan was simple. His crew of regular and special shadow clones would start by teleporting around Kakashi, appearing and reappearing at random. He would have the CL make for the bells first, working slowly to loosen the leather straps tied to Kakashi's belt. His special kamikaze clones would jump into the fray and explode at random. They drew near enough to their target. Anytime now the Jonin would falter in his attempt to protect the bells. That's when the Naruto would swoop in for the kill. Naruto saw Kakashi struggle to block and dodge the clones around him. He grinned in impish delight as the Jonin went flying backwards, clipped from the back by an Explo clone. As more Narutos flashed into view around Kakashi, the thunderclaps became a cacophony of loud angry explosions. His kamikaze clones added to the mix, its sound. Someone had detonated a series of C4 clusters. The unending series of clones and disorientating booms were wearing Kakashi down. The Jonin was visibly tiring, his count getting slower and more lethargic. Naruto stretched his right arm towards Kakashi. Narrowing his eyes in concentration amid the noise, he called on the electromagnetic part of his powers. He tensed his mu. As he felt a familiar buzz surround his arm. He saw the hair on the limb stand up on end as soft yellow glow enveloped his right hand. Although invisible to others. Naruto. Steady circular wave of the yellow glow flow outward from his hand. As the yellow circular band reached Kakashi, he mentally ordered it to slip around the bells attached to Jonin's waist. Following its master's will, the yellow band tightened around the bells, clutching them in an invisible embrace. The bells on Kakashi's waist jingled softly as th were pulled free and into Naruto's outstretched hands. He grinned triumphantly at Kakashi's surprised face, shaking the bells in victory. Seeing an opening, one of his clones moved in for the kill. The clone teleported right in the Jonin, his right arm cocked for a brutal strike. Tendrils of electricity wrapped menacingly around the fist, an extra surprise for the clone's target. With a battle cry, the clone savagely struck the Jonin in the gut. Immediately electricity wrapped around Jonin's flak jacket, giving its inhabitant vigorous shock. The fact that the flak jacket was inlaid with metal fibers for strength only made it worse. The electricity wrapping Kakashi flashed angrily, and in an instant Kakashi was no more. A smoking scorch mark was all that remained, hot ash from burnt grass adorned in a circle around the smoke. Clone looked at the remarkably empty in confusion, then in realization when he realized the truth. The doppelganger snapped his head to the original. It was a clone. With wide eyes Naruto checked the bells in his hands. He shook them, and expectedly they let out a soft jingle. But upon closer inspection he saw the word, fake, on the T. Bells. These were fake. Son of a bitch. Naruto yelled. He'd been tricked. He chucked the unwanted fakes back into the leafy underbrush in frustration. As he contemplated the Jonin's cleverness, grudgingly gave his respect to the man. He hadn't even realized that the Jonin they had been talking to since the beginning of the exam had been a shadow clone. Kakashi. Good. Really good. Hiding in the bushes 10 yards away, Kakashi smiled at Naruto's frustration. The blonde didn't know it, but there were no fake bells. The two he'd just chucked away were actual ones. Who knew how easily people could be deceived? Kakashi steadily made his way to the bells and silently picked them up. He would never tell Naruto how close been to actually passing. The blonde would never live it down. Other than that, Kakashi had to say that Naruto's new abilities were effective. It was a good thing he had replaced himself with a clone before the start of the test. By the low Naruto's face, his paranoia had more than paid for itself. Though, that teleporting of his combined with Kage Bunshin is a deadly technique. My clone had a really hard time fending off the multitude of disappearing Narutos. Not to mention those irritating exploding clones. That ability of his is on par, no better than my late sensei's Hiraishin. Naruto had the right instruction, he could surpass his father. Kakashi gave Naruto one last smile look before he crept away in silence. From his crouched perch, Sasuke clenched his hands in anger as he saw more than a score of Narutos go head-to-head with Kakashi. He was completely baffled. He knew work and determination paid off eventually, but what was going on now was not the result of some measly practicing. Naruto had been a consistent failure in class. No way one could work that hard and increase their power that fast. It was just impossible. But then how had Naruto jumped in ability in such a short amount of time? Taught him those jutsu. He wanted to know and, more importantly, he needed the instruction. He had a clan, a family to avenge, not Naruto. The blonde didn't have an all-consuming need for revenge like he did. He didn't have a gaping hole in his heart from utter betrayal. No, it was he, Uchiha Sasuke, that should receive such power. He force Naruto to tell him where he'd learned to teleport. Such a jutsu would be priceless in defeating Itachi. Sasuke, 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 you forgot one of the most important rules of combat, never let your guard down. The genin tensed as he heard the reprimand. Engrossed in his mental reverie, Sasuke hadn't sensed Kakashi's form shadowing his back. The lone Uchiha instantly spun AR. Retaliation. Calling on his hours of self-taught taijutsu, he executed a flawless rising roundhouse kick to Kakashi's face. The attack was good, solid strike. Unhesitant and wit pretense, it would give some serious damage if it landed. Unfortunately it hadn't. The Jonin easily stopped the attack with his left hand, mocking the surprised genin by wagging his right pointer finger. Don't be so hasty, Sasuke. Whatever. Quickly getting a hold of his surprise, Sasuke backed away from Kakashi and jumped off the tree. Immediately he went into standard guard position. He stood sideways facing Kakashi, feet shoulder-width apart, arms spread for defense. Kakashi raised one of his eyebrows. Taijutsu, huh? Well then, bring it. Kakashi stayed in his relaxed posture, standing slouched with his arms in his pockets. If he had Sasuke pegged, his nonchalance would annoy the Uchiha to no end. As predicted, the genin growled in anger. He ran at Kakashi with a standard punch. When he felt Kakashi's arm block the hit, he dropped low and followed his punch with a sweeping kick. The Jonin calmly hopped over the attempted trip. Sasuke kept spinning and followed through with a reverse spinning high kick. His eyes widened when his maneuver the Jonin had pulled to escape. Kakashi had mimicked a clown by balancing on the soles of Sasuke's feet with one arm and jumping off them to safety. Haha, Naruto gave me more trouble than this. Sasuke glared angrily at Kakashi and snapped through a series of hand seals. If Kakashi wanted trouble, he would give it. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. He yelled out. A hug. Ball burst forth from Sasuke's mouth. It tore a fiery path towards Kakashi. The ground behind it baked to a crisp from the inferno. Not bad for a genin. The Jonin thought. Good enough. A moment later, Sasuke found himself buried up to his neck in dirt. Kakashi bounded away. 2 down, 1 more to go. The Jonin found the girl mumbling to herself, sitting on a log. He sighed in exasperation. The girl wasn't paying any attention to her surroundings. Was this girl serious about becoming a ninja? Kakashi wasn't going to waste his time on some lovesick girl. He was a Jonin, not a babysitter. He would have to teach her a lesson. What would ski crap out of Sakura? He chuckled. Do I even have to ask? He bounded away in glee as she screamed. Far off in the center of woods, Kakashi's alarm clock rang loudly. The survival exam was over. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura stood in line in front of Kakashi. I'll put it bluntly, Kakashi said. You 3 suck. Naruto, I will admit that you have improved drastically since your time in the academy. The blonde started to look hopeful, gazing at Kakashi expectantly. But you still more to learn before you can take anyone of my strength without help from teammates. Naruto looked down in disappointment. Sasuke, you lost control of your emotion. Let down your guard. In fact, you were easily taunted and your anger made you lose sight of the goal, the bells. You were so angry that you just wanted to hit me. You glared at the Jonin. Sakura, I will just say this. The girl stared at Kakashi apprehensively, knowing whatever he was gonna say would not be pretty. If you don't pull you out of your ass and stop thinking about Sasuke all the time, you are going to die a horrible death. The girl gasped. Kakashi ignored her. All in all, I'd say you guys should do Konoha a favor and quit right now, before you get you and your comrades killed. Yes, he was being amazingly hard on the kids, but before he even considered having them as his students, he needed to make sure that they knew what being a ninja was about. Besides, he wasn't going to babysit them. By default, he was laid back and lazy, but when it came to being a ninja, he sweated his ass off. Sure, he was considered but talent wasn't everything. Talent had to be layered with grit, and hard work, and most of all, teamwork. In his mind, only those with the will of fire should become genin. Those who would lay aside everything for their comrades, they would be a ninja. That was his nindo, his way of the ninja. He looked at each of the students in front of him. Naruto was gritting his teeth, no doubt holding back his anger at failure. His blue eyes were glowing with it, glaring hard at Kakashi. As the Jonin stood staring at the 3 front of him, he realized that they all had that look. That glare of angry disappointment, as if they needed to prove themselves once more. Kakashi looked at the clouds and sighed. He just might regret it, but he decided to let them have a second chance. In any case, he hadn't had the right attitude as a genin either. Let it be said that Kakashi W. Hypocrite. Tell you what, he started. I'm going to give you 3 a second chance. The 3 jerked up in pleasant surprise. This is what you have to do. Kakashi started to walk direction of a large tree at the center of the clearing. It was a monster of a plant. 10 feet wide and who knows how tall. It dominated the other trees around it. Perfect. The 3 genin stared in curiosity and then amazement when they saw Kakashi start walking up the large tree. The Jonin stopped at a thick limb 20 feet above ground. In order to do this, you must direct chakra to your feet. If you use too much, you will just push yourself off the tree. If you use too little, you won't be able to even hold on. Find the right amount to use, no less and no more. Kakashi jumped off the limb and landed in front of the gawking genin. He flung 3 kunai at the base of the tree, thud, they were embedded into the tree. Use those kunai to mark your spot so you know where you are. This is your second chance. Each of you has to reach that limb by nightfall and you have 7 hours till sunsets. If you get past the minimum limit, try to practice your stamina by repeatedly doing it, especially you Sakura. I'd suggest you run up the tree, then as you get acclimated, try walking instead. With that, the Jonin walked off. Wordlessly, Sasuke made an attempt. Naruto watched as a blue glow surrounded Sasuke's feet. For a few seconds the Uchiha stayed attached to the trunk, but after the 5-foot mark he started to slide. The quickly marked his spot and pushed off the tree, landing gracefully beside Naruto. Nice try Sasuke-kun, Sakura said encouragingly. Sasuke just grunted and walked off, brushing off the encouragement. A look of sadness crossed Sakura's face as she saw her crush leave. She turned around and her face hardened when she saw Naruto staring at her. What are you look at? She snapped. Naruto sighed. This was going to be long 7 hours. For the rest of the day things remained strained between Team 7 as they practiced. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura had each chosen a separate tree to work on. Other sounds of the forest and grunts of effort, the clearing was quiet. Naruto panted as he landed on the patch of ground in front of his tree. There were gouges all over the trunk, marking his progress. His highest mark was about 11 feet. Stared at the sun's position in the sky, only about 2 hours left. At this rate he'd never complete the challenge. Frustrated, he peered to his side, curious how Sakura had. There weren't nearly as many marks on her tree as his. In fact she had already reached the 20-foot mark, and going higher. How? He walked to the girls' practice area. Sakura! He yelled, looking up at her position. The girl was walking at the 25-foot mark and still going strong. After about 3 steps she started to slide and key. She marked her position, landing next to Naruto. What? She asked. Naruto grinned sheepishly. How'd you learn to do that so fast? I can barely reach 11 feet. Sakura grinned at Naruto's nervousness, she always loved to give insta. And she was pleasantly surprised that Naruto wanted her help. It's easy. I heard your cries of frustration while you were climbing. You gotta keep calm. Chakra fluctuates. Your emotions. If your chakra fluctuates too much, you can't control it well. If you just keep your anger and frustration down you should be good. Naruto brightened upon hearing the instruction. It was simple really, calmness equaled control. Thanks Sakura. As Naruto went up the tree he saw drastic improvement. Talking with Sakura had deflated his anger, and as he walked past the 15-foot mark, his joy soared. Whoa! Naruto hastily marked his spot and jumped off the tree when he heard the trunk crack beneath his feet. He chuckled, he had gotten too excited and his chakra had gotten too high. But if he kept his emotions down to containable levels he should reach 20 feet easily. With a confident smile Naruto started up again. Sasuke frowned angrily as he stared at the score of gouges in the wood in front of him. Drops of sweat cascaded down his neck and back. He hadn't realized that this hard. His irritation grew at his slow progress. He'd seemed to hit a barrier, the countless scratches at the apex of his ascent proved it. He paused, panting for breath from the wall walking. After he recovered, he decided to check on his teammates' progress. When he got closer to them, he'd nearly dropped his kunai. Both Naruto and Sakura were well past 20 feet. Sakura was near the top of the 50-foot tree herself, the plant slightly swaying under her weight. He knew that there were only an hour left at most, the sky was starting to turn into a dazzling array of pink and purple. The only would be able to reach the goal in time was to ask for help. He felt bitterness in his heart at the thought. Itachi hadn't needed help. His older brother had succeeded in anything he did, without the aid of others. Wouldn't he have too? Capable as his brother to ever kill him. Asking for help exposed his weakness, and he couldn't be weak when facing Itachi. He didn't realize he was emulating the man he hated most. Sasuke stiffly walked over to Naruto. He'd be damned if he asked Sakura for help. Showing any sign of interest in her would only give her the wrong idea. Naruto. The blonde genin jumped as if startled, then looked surprised when he saw Sasuke standing behind him. The almighty Uchiha Sasuke graces me with his presence. He saw. Sarcastically. Sasuke grunted, but continued his question. How? He began hesitantly. How did you get so far up the tree? The uptight Uchiha finished his sentence with the side of his mouth, not quite looking at Naruto as he talked. Naruto tilted his head at his teammate in curiosity. It rare for him to talk to me. I was wondering when you'd ask. I had to ask Sakura before I got it. See what you have to do is. As the last vestiges of the sun set over the horizon Team 7 stood at attention before Kakashi. The Jonin pointed at Sakura. You first. The girl nodded and made her W. The tree Kakashi had climbed earlier. She started walking vertically up the trunk and made it well past Kakashi's designated mark. When she was done, she perched triumph. At 60 feet. Kakashi nodded in approval. Well done, Sakura. The girl beamed at the praise. Kakashi turned to Sasuke and told him to go. The genin nodded curtly and saint his assent. Instead of running he walked, realizing that walking showed more skill. Sasuke sat on a limb at 45 feet. Kakashi nodded at Sasuke and then directed his over to Naruto. The genin started his climb, also reaching the 45-foot mark. He shoved Sasuke out of the way so he could sit. The Uchiha glared at Naruto, then Relin, and moved over. Kakashi looked at the genin sitting in the treetop. Yes, they had reached and surpassed his designated height, but had they truly understood the reason, he'd have told them to. This. Naruto, he started. Give me your thoughts on your teammates, don't hold anything back because I'll ask them the same question. Sakura's a stupid fangirl. The girl stiffened in irritation. I mean, all she and the other girls' academy do is fawn over the dumbass next to me. Sasuke snapped his head. Naruto in disbelief, he was the dumbass. But you know, I realized that there was more to Sakura when she gave me advice about wall walking. She loves to teach and give instruction. She's smart and she could be awesome if she just got over her obsession with Sasuke. And Sasuke. Well, like I said before, he's a dumbass, but once he gets himself he should be good. Kakashi smirked at Naruto. Interesting analysis. Sakura, tell me what you think about Naruto. Kakashi smirked at Naruto. Interesting analysis. Sakura, tell me what you think about Naruto. Well, first of all, he's the dumbass. I mean, come on. Even Shikamaru did better than him at the academy. He's a total idiot, you know. Sakura's rant quieted down and looked down at Naruto. She grinned. But he has spirit and determination. He never gives up, even when things are down. I would have broken down in tears if I hadn't the academy test, but he didn't, and he managed to achieve success from failure. The blonde in question looked up at Sakura in gratitude, not realizing that the girl knew him in that way. He smiled. Though he's still an idiot. Naruto's grin dropped and he huffed in mock sulkiness, as he looked the other way. Friendship, loyalty against overwhelming odds. That's why team members should work well together. They must trust each other because trust is the link that binds a team together. Naruto. The blonde jumped up in surprise. When you struggled to climb the tree, who was it that helped you? Sakura, he answered. But wasn't she just a stupid fangirl? Kakashi said with knowing smile. Well, yeah, she was, but she is more than that now. She's my teammate. Kakashi nodded in satisfaction. That is how it should be. Think of your team as a machine. One made up of many parts that each contribute something to the machine. If parts are incompatible, then the machine doesn't work. For a ninja squad, that is almost suicide. You three must become compatible, know even more, you three must learn and work with your teammates, because in the heat of battle your teammates are all you've got. That's all I have to say. Tomorrow our duties as Team 7 officially begin. Kakashi watched the backs of his genin grew farther away. He sighed and stared at the sky. The sun had already set in the horizon, turning day to night. The full moon saws bright blue glow brightly over the treetops, giving the forest an eerie pale luminescence. Staring at the majestic view, Kakashi thought about his three young charges. Hope. They had understood what he was trying to say. As ninja they would need all the luck they could get. Taruka sensei.